It's not a choice. You have to get out there. It's not a choice. You have to get out there.
A lot of broken families.
The cost of war, it's unbelievable.
I've been to Washington before, but I want to see all the new monuments. It's been many years since I've been there. I went there on my honeymoon 72 years ago.
Come on down, let's get some Guardians over here.
I am going with my grandfather, Al Streeter, on the honor flight. I found out from my grandfather that he had gone on his first trip to Washington, D.C. and took my grandmother on their honeymoon. So it's very, very special to me. She passed away this last June, and so him being able to go with me and show me the places that they went to, it's such a great experience, and I'm so blessed to be able to do this with him.
If you think of the medals that our veterans are decorated with, you'll find just about every one of them represented in this group. We even have one veteran who's a Purple Heart recipient. His guardian is his son, who was wounded 3 times while serving our country. There's a Purple Heart family for you. You all have stories, and I know when we come and talk to you, each one of you are going to tell us, I'm not a hero, the heroes didn't come home. But we're here today to remind you, yes, to us, you are heroes. You were willing to make that ultimate sacrifice, and we don't take that lightly.
There you go, sir, you're gonna go right up.
We live in Merced, and they used to take off from Merced. So I heard about it, and then I finally put in for it, and 3 months later I got called. I was there in 1950, but I'm sure it's changed since then.
Ladies and gentlemen, who's standing by for Washington?
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the captain speaking. Just about ready to depart. Should be away on schedule in the next couple of minutes.
In some cases, you're looking for the name of a friend on that Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall. We have a veteran here who's looking for his brother's name.
When I grew up, and I'd seen through wars, and I knew when I turned 18 years old where I was going. And I was being drafted into the Army, and my brother came back from Korea and said, if you don't want to freeze to death in Korea, you better do something. So I joined the Navy.
All passengers intending travel should be through the door marked A3.
January 61 to April 61, the Algerians wanted to kill President de Gaulle. So we got called and we went and fought against Algerians in downtown Paris. A lot of people don't even know about that. See, I went through what they call the Cold War. That's when, and the Cold War is from 47 to 91. So there's still a lot of kids out there, MIAs and missing in action.
Went into the Navy March the 1st of 1957, and I was discharged in 1961.
I was drafted. Surprise, I mean, it's a change of life. When I was in basic training, my back gave out in the infantry, and it was too much. So they put me in there, working in there. Well, things just didn't come easy. I mean, you have to stick with it and do the right things.
I was in the Air Force, so there was very few bullets that passed over us. The only time that we had to worry about is when it was in Southeast Asia. That when I first got there, I was in the jet engine propulsion branch, and it was off base, and you had to go through a checkpoint to get to it and get out. Well, one morning when we come out, the guards didn't come out to meet us, and we looked in and that all their throats had been cut. When I came back from Southeast Asia, if you had a uniform on, people would actually spit on you.
After I left overseas, you go through a lot of trauma. I went into drinking a lot. I ended up getting divorced and broke everything in my mom's house. It was just like, I guess you would call it PTSD, but I didn't want to admit that was it. It's still times I think back of some of the things I've done, So because of the things I've seen overseas.
The cost of war is unbelievable. I lost an uncle in World War I, and I lost a cousin in Vietnam. In World War II, I had 5 uncles, all brothers, in the service all at one time. There were 4 of them in the Air Force, and 1 of them was in the Army. And the one that was lost was an Air Force pilot on a B-17. He had another brother, that was an uncle, that was a 17 pilot that was shot down and came out through Holland. I was very close because I lived next to my grandparents and saw all those uncles and all the family. And it was an experience. I can remember a lot about the war. As far as my service, I don't think I did anything.
They said that the Korean War was not called a war. They said the Vietnam was not called a war. So what was the thing that I done, what was it called? Is it occupation, conflict, insurgent, or what is it? A lot of people don't know about these things. There's a lot of good memories because driving for the 82nd, I traveled all over France and Germany. I got to see some places that I would have never seen either, but I also saw a lot of places that were still bombed all over, had never been fixed, and that to me was thinking back what it could have been being there, how it would have happened, all the people that suffered and all that, and it's one of the things that you'll never forget. It's always in your mind.
The biggest cost of war is loss of life. You can lose all the machinery you have, but there's nothing like losing a life.
A lot of waste of money. Costs is very high for those veterans who never return, for their families, a lot of broken families as a result.
We've fought wars all over the world that I don't feel we should have been fighting. And money didn't seem to be a problem, and our boys didn't seem to be a problem either. So
I think it's very, very important for kids to know about the wars in the past and the wars that's going on presently. It's very educational, and It's extremely important.
Freedom is not a choice. We have to get out there and do
it. They don't realize, have no clue of what the freedoms they have. They don't know how to appreciate it. This generation of mom and dads, I don't think they even know. They can't teach them because they don't know. They're too busy making money, too busy with other things. They got to start back. It's got to start at home.
But I think they should learn more about the history starting from the beginning to where we are right now. I really think.
Warren Terrence, 4th Floor, Air Force, World War II. Warren Terrence, where are you, sir? We have been free.
The cost of war is not something nice. You know, it eats you up. You know, some people can live with it, some cannot. I myself, if I would have been like in Vietnam or Korea, something like that, maybe I would have been a different person.